Welcome to Doing Justice Brings Joy, the podcast rooted in the word, the witness, and the world we're organizing to change. We break down the policies, the structures, and the stakes behind the fights for housing, dignity, and freedom, tracing the line from scripture to strategy, from community demands to the decisions made in City Hall and beyond. Because justice is a discipline, joy is a mandate, and none of this work is done alone. And the story isn't finished until justice speaks. And we stay on it until the evidence is heard.
Good afternoon and welcome to this week's edition of Doing Justice Brings Joy. I'm your host, Stella Adams, and I'm joined today by William Adams, our thank you, baby, our correspondent and co-host. We're going to provide you with updates on stories in the news impacting North Carolinians and impacting our culture. I'm going to ask William to start us off with an update on what's going on with the numerous cases that have come to light involving our young black children dying under suspicious circumstances. William, give us an update.
So I have two updates. One on the drowning death of Daniel Irving. Again, the family is still outraged that the teen who was arrested in connection with his murder is only being charged with tampering evidence, in that he tried to cover up what had happened to Daniel. And he disposed of Daniel's body, and they then didn't report the incident to authorities, and so Daniel wasn't found until 4 days later. Both teenagers were arrested. But the police are taking the side of the report of the two teens that Irving apparently drowned, which, if this was simply a drowning, why did they cover up the trail and then and then not report what had happened? Why did they not call the police and try to get help? Family's attorney, or attorney representing the family, said that they are demanding answers as to why the charges are clearly lenient.
That's an understatement and a half based on the facts that are in the public view.
And so, and the family is also emphasizing that Daniel Irving was on his school swim team. So him drowning apropos of nothing does not logically track. And so, again, the family is continuing to look for answers. The second update I can provide is on the case of Daryl Lowry, who also drowned. 13-year-old Daryl Lowry drowned Monday of the week of July 24th. So that would have been, what, last Monday?
This month, yeah. This month. The one just passed.
On the shores of Modoc Shores in McCormick County, South Carolina. So we're in South Carolina now. The McCormick County Sheriff's arrested Landon Austin Moore, 17, and 16-year-old who has not been identified. According to the affidavit, the three teenagers got into a physical altercation at the boat dock. At one point, Lowry suffered lacerations from a knife During the fight, Moore and another team of Larry grabbed Lowry and held him underwater until he drowned. And so this case, unlike the others, there's clear perpetrators who have been arrested and charged. We will see whether or not in this case the suspects are plea dealed down to the most minor charges possible. Because that is also what we usually see, is that even in cases where there is a charge, oftentimes due to the lengthy process of court proceedings and things falling out of the public eye, prosecutors are able to plead down these type of charges to the lowest possible.
I think they're interesting context in South Carolina. Are they going to try them as adults? I mean, the youth as an adult? I think also in the Irving case, there are a lot of concerns around accepting accepting as fact the statements of the two people who concealed the body, concealed and destroyed evidence. To this day, his phone has not been found. And say, oh, we were scared, accepting that they were scared and that's why they did these, when if this was any other circumstance,
Yes.
this would be evidence of intent for first degree murder. And so I am sympathetic with the mother in this case. Yesterday at the National Urban League, a press conference was anybody's universe. And what fortunately or unfortunately, as a result of all of the tension that Nolan Wells' case has brought, it has also brought light to these other cases that were happening but were underreported or footnotes on page 6. But because Nolan's case got so much attention, other people, that the Charlotte Observer had the circumstances of them declaring that she had unalived herself, right? That they made that assumption, and they didn't interview the person who found the body, who, by the way, had a video of what he found. They didn't get that. They didn't interview him.
That is, so unfortunately with the numerous black people who are found hanged, the pattern is police assuming and declaring suicide without looking into details. And only if family members really pursue things do autopsies even happen, and sometimes even then they're shoddy work. And you have the case of Colin Kaepernick's organization helping to pay for families to have secondary autopsies in these questionable situations and circumstances.
And one of the things that came out in the report that I saw was that these investigations are public duties of these organizations, of the police department, of the medical examiner's department. That's their job. And when they don't, I have been overwhelmed and outraged by
Yes.
your reporting, William, And I want to say that on a number of these cases that are now percolating, you first reported them on our show months ago. This
Yes.
is the the Nolan Wells case was really a culmination of over a dozen cases you had previously reported
Yes.
on the podcast.
Yes.
And yet it's a rinse and repeat cycle that we have to break. And when we talk about, and we will do when we have time, it'll be in September at the earliest, because October is action-packed, people, but
You mean August?
August is action-packed. So we're gonna have guests with us every week next month. But we're going to do an in-depth, I think we're going to start with the first week in September, and we're going to focus on the systemic invisibility of so many crises, and we're going to start with black women. And I'm going to invite your sister to come on to talk to us about labor and in terms of income and jobs, but also labor in terms of women's maternal health, black women's maternal health. So that is going to be our the first topic in September. And then we're going to look in depth at the criminal justice system. As many of my viewers know, I am a professional investigator. And I have been looking at these cases, what an investigator does and how an investigator proceeds is a process, it's a system. It's a step-by-step analysis process that if you follow the investigative process, you will end up with a solution. And what I am seeing in these cases over and over again is that there are assumptions rather than assessments being made. In every one of these cases, the initial the initial investigator at the scene is making assumptions instead of assessments. They are not asking the investigative questions. They are not working out a plan of how does this happen. They are not starting at the right point and answering the basic questions. They are making assumptions about what the outcomes and answers are going to be. And too often, they are doing this based on assertions being made by suspects. Now, the third case that was discussed at the National Urban League press conference was about a death that they said was a self-inflicted injury, because that's what everybody told them. But they didn't do paraffin tests. The guys in the room said, "Oh, he did it."
He shot himself.
Through playing Russian roulette.
But they did not.
But they did not check his hands or anybody's hands. They didn't know. Okay, this is what I'm saying. So, based on an assertion by a person of interest, should have been, right? based on an assertion, they made an assumption instead of doing the investigative. That's not even due diligence. That's basic investigation.
Yeah.
Okay? If you're going to assume that, if you're going to assert that as the cause,
check
you
the
have
gun
to,
for fingerprints
you
and
gotta
then
check,
everyone
you
for
gotta
gunpowder
check,
residue.
that's basic. That's basic. That's basic in those type of cases. And when you skip the basics, you skip the fundamentals and move on, this is where investigations weaken or are non-existent, and people are left. These families are seeking the truth, wherever the truth may lie. But how can you trust a system that has made assertions and assumptions before any investigation has been done? I can't trust that.
Yeah.
And when it's over and over and over again, when the majority of the folks who should be questioned
Right.
are of one race and the victim is of another, it then leads to systemic bias.
Yes.
And the value of black testimony and the value of white testimony. Black men have been arrested and harassed based on mere allegations, no evidence.
Yes.
Arrested
convicted
on mere allegations with no evidence. Forced confessions when they weren't even in the area. But when we have evidence of cover-up, of concealment, of destruction of evidence, of non-reporting the accident, you just, okay, you say you didn't do it, it was an accident, we accept that without question. There's something wrong with that system. There's something wrong with that process.
Yes.
And those of you who know me know that I believe the process will lead to the proper outcome. But the process has to be what? Followed and fair. And there is no fairness.
Yeah.
There is no impartiality. There is no neutrality in any of the cases that we've been talking about over the course of the last month or so.
Yeah.
None. Absolutely none. And I'm going to transition us, and I want you to stay with me here, William.
Okay.
Because North Carolina is going to be home to the largest detention center, ICE detention center, on the East Coast. Larger than that mess in Florida, larger than the one in Atlanta. It will hold 1,400 people. And we as citizens of North Carolina have no control over it because it's the repurposing of a federal prison. And this is in Winton, North Carolina. And Clinton is a tiny community in the northeastern part of North Carolina. That's the Black Belt counties of North Carolina. It sits right on that sort of border, and it's pretty distraught. So on this one, I'm going to kind of talk us through it and give us some history. I'm going to share the screen and kind of show you a and let me get to the page and I will get rid of these ads. But ICE Detention Center for North Carolina raises concern among immigrant advocates. And it talks about the River Correctional Institute in Hartford will reopen. See, it's already a federal prison, a former federal prison that was closed down, okay? It will reopen as an ICE detention facility by the end of the year. Now this, bringing hundreds of jobs to one of North Carolina's most economically distressed communities while prompting concerns from immigrant rights activists. And don't get me started about talking about the GEO Group. The GEO Group announced it had a 5-year contract to reopen the private prison, which has been closed since 2021, and I'll talk to you about why if the article doesn't. With beds for more than 1,300 detainees, but I've seen in other reports they're going to pack it and stack it with up to 1,400 detainees. Siembra, North Carolina, donate to them. You should see you should see them scrolling at the bottom. If not, I'm going to make that scroll. Donate to Siembra because they are doing God's work here. Said reopening an ICE facility represents a significant expansion of immigrant detention in North Carolina. The most concerning thing for me about reopening Rivers is that it's bringing the humanitarian crisis that we know exists inside detention centers to our state. And this is not what we want in North Carolina, said Adriana Malike, defense manager for Siembra NC. The National Immigration Project said more than 50 people have died in ICE custody since 2025. Malky said Rivers had a history of poor conditions when it operated as a federal prison and fears detainees could face similar treatment after it reopens. River Correctional Facility was notorious when it was open as a criminal prison. And the article says they had all kinds of documented terrible conditions for the folks that were incarcerated there. It was so bad they had to shut it down. According to Siembra, ICE arrests in North Carolina have doubled over the past year, and half of them don't have a criminal record. But we also, if you look at today's News and Observer online, they're also arresting, and this happened in Charlotte, this happened in the Triangle. It is, they are arresting legal residents. They are arresting people who are legally here. They are arresting United States citizens who don't happen to have their passport or birth certificate on them. And are we going to be a nation that requires people to have papers, that requires people to stitch their badges to their clothes? People are constantly pressured into signing things they do not understand because everything is English only. Because if your choices are stay in this detention center or sign and get out, people are going to sign and get out. This is a very intentional way to deny people their due process. And this is what the facility looks like. I mean, that's terrible. And I'm so sick of hearing that it's going to create jobs. So we're going to have, I want you to imagine this and talk to me about this, William, because of your deep knowledge of this type of history. So we're going to have the people of Hartford County, a tier 1, extremely poor county in North Carolina, predominantly, overwhelmingly black population. We're going to create jobs for them to be overseers of our immigrant brothers and sisters. And be clear that all immigrants are not Latino. They're the Haitians, the Congolese.
They're going to do that, but if we're being honest, most likely they are going to recruit from other counties. So the jobs being created will not go to the people actually living
in Hartford
County. Because as we've seen with many large buildings such as this, large government facilities like this, large law enforcement facilities, the people they hire are not necessarily from the community they work in. And so, again, Hartford is a small county, which means, do they have a large law enforcement community? They are going to want to stack this prison with already trained law enforcement professionals, which means they're probably going to be recruiting from other counties, bring those officers in. So it's probably not going to bring in jobs. It'll bring in tax revenue because that's why private prisons are in rural counties. Is the rural counties use private prisons to up their population numbers so they can receive more money from the state. That is why private prisons exist the way they do.
So let me get that. So in the census count, those 1,400 detainees count as residents of that county for purposes of getting government, federal government subsidy or
the
state
reason
government.
that there are a lot of large federal prisons in rural counties, the reasons a lot of prisoners are shipped out of their city or state of residence to prisons out of the way is rural communities accept those prisons because of the financial gain they get from having them, and the gain is tied to the population of the prison. I won't say it's like necessarily they count as residents, but there is whatever the system is that prisons that counties get for housing prisoners, it's tied to the population of the prisoners. So the private prison organization gets money by how many beds they fill.
And you can see that in what the Republican state representative is saying about the prison. The opportunity for employment is very important, which will benefit the county and state through additional income sources, he said. As a private company, Ward says GEO Group's contract with ICE is a business decision that should not be subject to state interference.
Yeah.
As a strong supporter of free enterprise and acknowledging the fact that GEO Group is a private entity, any contracts they legally enter into are strictly business decisions to be made by them. GEO Group said the contract is expected to generate $80 million in revenue during its first year.
And so with a lot of these private, one of the things about the immigration crackdown is prior to it, the U.S. prison population had been dropping dramatically.
That's right.
And because the U.S. prison population had been dropping dramatically, that means private prisons who are paid by the number of beds they have filled were losing a lot of money. You also had the issue that was slowly gaining momentum until this current regime of large percentages. I think the majority, at one point, the majority of people in prison currently have not officially been charged with a crime or have not had their day in court. Right? They have not had court proceedings. So you have, that may be jails, not prisons, but a large portion of people in prison and in jails have not been charged, have not been convicted of a crime, and have simply been arrested by police, thrown behind bars, and kind of left there as they're waiting for due process. And so we have a large population of people stuck in this gap of due process, some people waiting up to a year before their first court date, where their charges are actually revealed, filling up these private prisons, which get paid per person they have. And so even with that, we have the prison population declining, and so now they are reopening closed facilities and filling them with immigrants, and the private prisons are going to be paid for these immigrants who have been arrested in these ICE raids. And so that is another aspect of what's going on.
I'm deeply troubled. I'm going to try to get somebody, I keep saying that, and then something else breaks and I never get the folks from Siembra to come. But I'm going to make sure that that's a priority in September as we're looking at these things that are impacting our state and local elections.
Yeah.
Siembra also highlighted that the state legislature adopted the North Carolina's Border Protection Act, and that legislature required state law enforcement agencies to, it didn't say may, required them to enter into cooperative agreements with ICE, expanding the state's role in federal immigration enforcement.
Yeah.
And these two things go hand in hand, and there's a lot of concern about it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna opine about this. This will be editorial opinion about this particular program coming into our state. I want to put it in context for those of you who may not be aware of the history and background of the River Institution, as well as the history of the community in Hartford. So I want you to think about this as the plantation never closed. There's something about this proposed detention center in Winton that feels familiar. Not because immigration detention is new, not because private prisons are new, but because northeastern North Carolina has seen this story before. It's a different century, it's a different language, different people are being targeted, but it's the same logic. The former Rivers Correctional Institution sits in Hertford, North Carolina, in the heart of the Black Belt. Reports indicate that ICE plans to convert the shuttered prison into a facility capable of holding between 1,300 and 1,400 detainees, potentially making it one of the largest immigration detention centers and concentration camps. I'm just going to be straight up, no chaser, on the East Coast. As we saw in that article, proponents call it economic development, a jobs program, a boost for a struggling economy. But when I hear that, I cannot help but think about the history of this region. Because northeastern North Carolina has spent centuries being told that somebody else's exploitation is its economic future. This land remembers. It remembers plantations. It remembers enslaved Africans who labor generated wealth that transformed North Carolina while it remained legally property. It remembers resistance. Many people know the story of the Underground Railroad, but few know about the communities of self-liberated Black people who sought refuge in the Great Dismal Swamp along the North Carolina and Virginia border. For generations, freedom seekers built lives in places slave catchers could not easily reach. This region remembers maroon communities. It remembers enslaved people who escaped. It remembers Black churches that became organizing centers. It remembers Black farmers who struggled to retain land despite discrimination. It remembers teachers and parents who educated children when public institutions neglected them. And it remembers a long tradition of Black women holding entire communities together when the government and industry failed them. This is not a place with a history of oppression. Be real clear about that. I'm talking about a hospital. This is a place with a history of resistance. For generations, the Black Belt has functioned as an extraction zone. Wealth leaves, labor leaves, young people leave. Investment rarely arrives unless someone else intends to profit. Industrial agriculture, environmental burdens, economic abandonment, and now detention. The proposed ICE facility sits within a region where many communities continue to struggle with persistent poverty and limited economic opportunity. The supporters of the proposal argue reopening Rivers could restore hundreds of jobs associated with the facility's previous operation. But as you just discussed, those jobs are not going to be for the people in the Black Belt counties. It's going to be for outsiders.
Trained law enforcement professionals and people coming out of law enforcement schools.
Who are primarily white.
Yeah.
And many of them have really pro-MAGA perspectives on these matters. They're not coming in as trained, neutral enforcers of the law. They're coming in with an agenda against immigrant communities and the communities where they operate.
Yeah.
There's a troubling pattern here. Why is it that when Northeastern North Carolina asks for investment, it rarely gets offered universities, research parks, green industries, healthcare campuses, or other kind of, true sustainable economic development? It only gets offered, the poorest counties get offered to be tied to confinement and prisons and negative economic opportunities. At some point, we have to ask whether this is development or dependency that they're trying to build in this northeastern corridor, and whether this is prosperity or simply a new version of an old arrangement. There's another part of this story that deserves our attention: the effort to pit exploited communities against one another. This is one of the oldest political tricks in the Southern strategy. Telling struggling people that another struggling group is their problem. Tell them their interests are incompatible. Turn their attention sideways instead of upward. And in this case, in rural North Carolina, we're pitting family farmers, white family, struggling family farmers, against immigrant labor, against historic black communities within that are no longer their servants and peonage. So instead of asking why rural communities remain economically neglected, debates often become focused on the immigrants themselves. It's the pitting of the gentry landowner against the peasant farmer. That's the history. And North Carolina has a history of fighting against that, and we're going to talk about that. Instead of asking why public resources never seem to arrive until the detention contracts appear, communities are told to choose between jobs and human dignity. The choice becomes accept the cages or accept economic decline. That's not a real choice. It's the kind of choice that offers communities that have been denied meaningful alternatives. It's a Sophie's choice, if you will. The descendants of enslaved people and immigrant families seeking safety have more in common than many political narratives allow. Both understand displacement, both understand family separation, both understand systems that welcome their labor while questioning their humanity. And that shared vulnerability is precisely why these counties should see one another as allies rather than competitors. I got to say this to the people of Northeastern North Carolina. They understood immediately what was going on. Earlier this year, residents packed meetings at the Hereford County Board of Commissioners to voice concern about the possibility of an ICE detention center reopening at Rivers. Community members traveled from across the state to speak against the proposal, while local residents questioned what would mean for the future of the county. The activism expanded beyond the county meetings when reports emerged that ICE was moving closer to reopening the facility. Protests took place in the Hosky and elsewhere in the region. Community organization, immigrant rights advocates, faith leaders challenged the proposal and called attention to the broader expansion of detention infrastructure across our state. There were even more than 200 people demonstrating outside the General Assembly to push back against expansion of immigration detention in North Carolina. That response matters. because the people of northeastern North Carolina did not simply accept the narrative that detention equals opportunities. They are asking the question that you asked, William, opportunity for whom? Because, as you say, those jobs don't generally go to the people there. What do you think about, the activism and the pushback that people are giving in the community?
I think it's good that the community is pushing back and trying to organize around it. Because again, just think about how often do you run into people who say, who there is a prison or federal facility in a town, and someone is like, oh yeah, I work there. He's like, unless it's like an administrative role, like a desk role, usually not. Right? And so, again, these opportunities are not necessarily for the community. And the government has basically said they are going to leave the facility alone. Right? He's like, it's a private thing, which means there are not going to be any incentives forced on the company to invest in the community in which they reside. How is this facility going to affect the water and electricity bill for residents? And so, if there's no incentive from the organization that runs this facility, the state is not going to mandate them do anything for the town, then the only value they bring is the job opportunities of the people who work there, and potentially the people who work there eating in the local area. But if they don't live in the local area, they won't really be part of the local economy. So only like food and gas establishments will benefit.
One of the things that I worry about, and I don't know whether they're planning to have women at this facility or not, but the fact that the government says, hey, it's a private entity and they can,
we already have that issue even in the government-run facilities.
Right, that's my point,
Yes, and that's one thing that people have stopped tracking. Because people are still tracking the murders because they're murders. People are not tracking the pregnancies in the facilities.
They stopped that?
Well, it's not as much in the news. Some people are tracking it, but nationally, what the number is of how many women have become pregnant in facilities, who the father of these children are. Because they'll say, oh, there are a bunch of women who become pregnant in these ICE facilities, but it'll be written in a way that does not imply, hey,
they were raped. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't say that.
This was an assault on these women, and who was it by? Were there investigation? Were charges brought? No. Was it one of the ICE officers? Right? And so we'll have this incident, and again, Trump is pushing to have birthright citizenship taken away.
He lost on that one.
He lost that, but he's fighting to have that, and I wonder if one of those pushes is because a lot of children are going to come out of these ICE facilities who are going to be citizens because their father was an ICE officer. And that is going to be a political football the GOP is going to have to reckon with. Is these children are going to be by birthright citizenship. Their father was a U.S. citizen. Therefore, they are citizens. They were born in America. Their father was a citizen. And so then it's going to be, okay, now you're going to have a lot of paternity tests by these immigrant women to establish the parentage of their father, who are all these ICE agents, and you're going to have all of these ICE agents. Because obviously, so we have reported 50 murders. Obviously, there are way more pregnancies than there have been the murders. So let's say it's double, right? We're going to have 100 paternity tests. asserting that 100 different ICE officers, minimum, assaulted women in the facility.
You're either going to have, so we're either going to have forced sterilization, forced abortions, or we're clearly having forced pregnancies.
Yes.
In these facilities. This is being experienced now. This is in
National. And so with
nationally,
them,
and what would happen, and
with them including private facilities, private prisons,
which don't document.
which don't document as well, which also, again, I don't know the regulations for staffing for private prisons, other than I know they tend to choose military and law enforcement, people with those backgrounds. But beyond that, I don't know what scrutiny and requirements they have to adhere to.
Right.
Especially when it comes to reporting these things.
So we have two sets of women. We have women come into the facility who are pregnant and
Yes.
who are denied treatment.
Denied treatment, denied
Denied treatment and services. Many of them are having babies in their cells with
Yes.
no assistance.
Yes.
This is documented.
Yes.
We're also hearing about just maintenance. Women have routine monthly maintenance that is being women in detention facilities are operating. Their lives are like 18th and 19th century situations.
Yes.
They're being denied basic sanitary care. And then they are facing abuse. They're facing dehumanizing conditions, and it's very like their humanity. Their humanity is stripped from them, similar to.
This is a third world prison system. Yes. This is a third world prison system. Of picturing any abusive prison structure from let's say, any South American country, you would imagine what their prisons are like. Our prisons are not better. At this point, our prisons are not better. They're not more humane. The treatment is similar to worse.
We really have to do better. And this is what they want. I mean, the GEO group is one of the largest private detention corporations in the country. Advocacy groups and civil rights organizations have long criticized the private detention model for the very reasons we have talked about, arguing that profit motives create incentives that conflict with human dignity and, more importantly, with accountability. This does not automatically determine what will happen at Rivers, but it does mean that we, as citizens of North Carolina, have every right to ask the hard questions. History is relevant, especially when the people asking for trust stand to benefit financially from that trust. And again, we haven't even talked about the failure, the indecent food, the way disease is running through the encampments. We need to really call them the concentration camps that they are, and the humanitarian crises that they exist. When I think about Winton, I don't think first about detention beds. I think about the freedom seekers moving through the dismal swamp. I think about all the activists and organizers organizing for justice, not just now, but in the past. I think about civil rights activists challenging segregation and challenging systems. That is the legacy of this region. Not confinement, not extraction, not corporate profit, but resistance. And that is why the debate over this detention center matters. Because the benefit of all political arguments lie in a far older question. Will the black belt once again be asked to bear the burdens of a system designed elsewhere and profited from elsewhere? Or will North Carolina finally decide that the communities with this history deserve something better than another economy built around human confinement? The people of northeastern North Carolina have been answering that question for generations, and the rest of us should listen. I'm really concerned about this story. Like I said, I'm going to follow up on this, but as we bring this episode to a close, I'm really excited about next week's episode. We're going to have a guest, William. You know him, you love him. He's one of our people. Pierce Freelon.
Ah, yes, right. I didn't realize that was the first one. Okay.
Yeah, Pierce Freelon, a Grammy Award winning, Grammy nominated numerous times, and Grammy Award winning artist, is going to be on our show next week to talk about his new adventure with Coco Fro. Next Friday, we're kicking off Black August. And Black August is a celebration of black businesses in our community. And I think it's a national movement. But Pierce is going to be here. He's my first guest of the month. I have guests lined up. I have John D. Berry with my burdock soaps.
Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, with my burdock soaps is going to be with us on the 21st. I'm trying to line up a historic heavyweight, a former congressman to talk about his new autobiography. I haven't secured, so I'm not going to say the name, but I'm really excited and hopeful that I can secure him to close out the month for us. And I'm hoping to have, and please, if you are North Carolina-based black business and you want to be on the show the week of the 15th, let me know. We'll make room for you. But I am so excited that next week's show, and because this is Grammy-winning artist Pierce Freelon on my show, I'm going to have promos and the whole thing. It's going to be like a big production. So look out for I'm actually going to do an Instagram post. I don't even know. Mark. Hey.
How you doing? What you been up to?
Oh, I was just telling the people we're going to have Pierce Freelon on next week.
Good. Pierce will be wonderful. He's got amazing things going on, and he's got North Star. Of course, he got great music, so that'll be a great show going on. And he'll be talking about all kinds of things, even his politics and everything. 'Cause I know he was involved in politics and everything. And I still got to reach out to Moses and see if we can get Moses on in August as well, since it's the people that do Black August in the park and everything like that. So yeah, that'd be great if you got Pierce coming on. I can't, because I did a history lecture with him. I think that was almost a year and a half ago. Because there was some people from various parts of the world. I know there were some African nations. I think there were some Europe nations, but we did like a co-presentation, and he was asking them their favorite food since they were from different parts of the world, and of course they were giving us their different regional dishes. And of course, they were making me hungry when they did that presentation. That was almost a year ago, and I'm still thinking about some of the great things that they told me, whether it was some food from Portugal or some food from some different other places as well. And yeah, I was going like, "Ooh, this sounds like delicious," and everything like that.
Yeah,
It was
so
it was real good and everything. I'm surprised. I was talking to a friend of mine. He might try to run down on the last day or the next to last day. The next to last day would be today. But I was surprised you weren't drifting down to Winston Salem to the International Black Theater Festival. Since it's no longer the National Black Theater Festival, it's the International Black Theater Festival, and it's on even years now as opposed to the odd years. I want to say Central's already done their play because they were doing, I think, Fences or one of the other August Wilson plays. But it might even be going
oh
on now. But I'm surprised you hadn't made it down there because I know you and your husband are big fans of the arts and big fans of theater.
yeah, we went spent last weekend at my cousin's farm, winery at
Right. Okay. Right.
Seven Springs Winery, and they had their brews, blues, and barbecue
All
um,
right.
weekend. It was so fun. We really enjoyed it, and we came back with more bottles of like 10, 15 bottles of wine. We got some of everything, some of his wines, and they're very affordable. And I
Oh,
think
good.
in August they're having Greek, sort of a Greek picnic kind of.
I did see that they were doing the Greek picnic. Have you ever
Uh,
eaten at the black-owned seafood restaurant that's around the corner from Papagayo's here? But it's a sister, and she owns a seafood restaurant. I think it's called Nearest or something like that. But it's here
no, but
in it's here and it's black owned. It's a sister that owns it, and it's not that far from downtown. But it's a seafood forward restaurant and a craft cocktail bar. And it's yeah, I was right. It's near Nerra Durham. But yeah, it's a sister that owns it and everything like that. So you guys go support the
oh,
sister and everything like that.
we'll have to do that. Absolutely, we'll have to follow up with that.
And they're
But
open Wednesday through Saturday from
okay.
11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then they've got dinner Wednesday, and that's their lunch crowd. And then they got dinner Wednesday, Thursday 4 to 9, Friday and Saturday 4 to 10, and Sunday 4 to 10. So they've also got a Sunday brunch from 11 to 2:30, and a happy hour at the bar from 4 to 6.
Oh,
But
I was
yeah,
saying if she didn't have Sunday service, she was gonna miss out on our money.
yeah,
'Cause
she got Sunday.
so, but we love a seafood brunch. Oh, that's all up in CC's alley.
Yeah, he'll be
Yeah.
loving that. They got Sunday supper at Newark. I'm actually looking at their menu right now, and they've actually got live music on the patio on Thursday. So Thursday's the 6th.
Oh,
They have it from 6 to 9 and everything, and that's actually starting this Thursday, and it says join us every other Thursday for a perfect midweek reset. So that's going to be on Thursday that they'll have some live music going on. Because they got like a nice little patio area as well. But yeah, so they got Sunday supper, and so yeah, you can get your supper and your lunch on Sundays there. So they got some good things going on over there at Nearest. I can't remember the name of the woman, but I know it was owned by sisters. I'm actually looking if I can find out her name and everything like that. Yeah, so trying to see if I can find out the woman that owns Nearest and everything like that.
well,
Oh, and next Saturday we at Hayti, and this Cocoa Drip, which that's another black-owned organization. They're going to be doing a expo here, the Hayti Expo. There's going to be a business expo, and they said that they've got I think close to 75 vendors. So there'll be 75 vendors here
oh,
in Durham on
outstanding.
next Saturday the 8th and everything. So there'll be, like I
So
said,
it's
about
gonna be
75.
at your center.
It'll be at the Hayti Center right here. They'll be having 75 vendors, and they'll be definitely in joining it and everything like that. Alexis Lawson, she's known as Chef Lex. That's the woman that owns Nearest. I think she also used to own a restaurant in Chapel Hill and everything like that. But yeah, her name is Alexis Lawson. That's the woman that owns Nearest.
All right. Well, hey, people, we're gonna have a good time. And then August, Black August is rocking and rolling.
Yeah, we've
Um,
got Black August in the park, and like I said, August 8th. That'll be the 8th. Tomorrow is
so
the first,
we
but
got a
August
Black
8th
August in
will.
the park.
Yeah.
We've
No, I
got
said, yeah.
we've got activities at Hayti.
Oh, we got a lot of activities. Don't forget that Ta-Nehisi Coast is coming to. Unfortunately, it's sold out, and I don't think there's a mailing list or a waiting list. But
Oh man, Mark, you know you're supposed to like hook a sister up when these things happen.
well, I got your back. If you find a way to get here, I'll find a way to get you in. You know, I got your back.
Oh, that is awesome, people. We
Yeah,
got
but
we got a wonderful Black August coming up, and
oh
we're
yeah,
gonna be and so stay tuned. Mark and I are gonna be doing some Instagrams and some other things to highlight all the activities that are going on this month,
oh yeah.
and so
Not just
again,
Instagram. I don't know about you, but I've been having a field day. As a matter of fact, I was just posting something from the online dinner party, which is the show that I do on Wednesdays, and I've had
the online
I
dinner
had
parties
Michael
are
Hill
fun.
on, and I was posting some things on because he's got his chairs because he's a chair designer, an artistic chair designer. But
Ooh,
I had him on as a guest, and a young lady out of Carmel by the Sea in California who does a lot of art that's like pop art that has to do with otters, and I'm a fan of the animal, the otter, as well. So she was on as on the show. But yeah, I'm getting ready to post some TikToks about that so that we can drive some traffic to the show since we did the show live on Wednesday. But I don't know whether you're just doing Instagram, but TikTok is fun too. So I've been having fun with these TikTok shorts also.
well, we will catch you next week. Remember, he's going to be on at noon, so come join me earlier in the
Oh
show.
well, I just had some meetings and some other stuff going on, so I'm sorry that I joined you later. But yeah, I'll definitely be joining you when you got Pierce on because I've known Pierce for a while. Back when he was running around as a child, before he was having this successful adult life and being a major hip hop artist and producer and activist. Because he checks the boxes for
He
a lot
checks
of
all
things.
the boxes.
He
He
checks a
checks all
lot
the
of boxes.
boxes. We're going to have a really robust conversation. Um, and I just am so proud of him because, like you, I've seen him grow up.
Oh yeah.
And
You-
so,
You've definitely seen that. Oh, speaking of growing up and things going on, we have a new show with another sister that just started. I think it's going to be, uh, technically it's Wednesday at 7, but that might have a conflict with another show, so I might wind up moving it to 6 and everything like that. But we've got a show here on the network called The Fiscal CPRR. So it's like a CPR that you need and everything like that. But it is
oh,
a sister named Jay Graham, and she's doing that show every Wednesday. But she's got like a 52-week plan about how we can, hopefully save $27 a day, which can mean a nice little kitty if you do that. And she's got some other things that she was dropping knowledge about as well. But she did her premiere episode 2 days ago. So she's already got out there and she's putting it out there on her Facebook and social media as well. But it is Jay Graham, and she's got Anchored Success Management is the name of her company, but she's based in, I want to say Clayton, North Carolina, but she does work for us here at API as our bookkeeper. And she said, I want to do a podcast. I said, well, we can make that happen. And we made it happen.
yes,
So
we
she's already
can.
done her first episode, and she's looking to do many of them because she's of the opinion that too many people, and I know Nick, who's one of the founders, agrees with this, don't know a good enough job of managing our finances and all along those
Oh,
lines. So she's even got kind of a business plan that she gave her kids, and they had to do certain things and do them within a certain time frame before they could get these bonuses or things along those lines. So she's gave them incentives to do the things that they needed to do fiscally in order to get these kind of fiscal bonuses is back for a better term. But I'm sure she'll talk about that during the course of the show. She told me that just in some of our conversations. But a nice lady, probably in her mid 50s or something like that. But she's definitely going to be sharing a lot about the way that we can get our personal finances in better order.
well, I know I would appreciate that as I'm trying to actually, honest to God, this time retire.
And like I said, she's got one of the cookies I'm ready to do is she says how to calculate the salary you truly need to retire. And she's even guided that she's a fan of men. I actually use Rocket Money, but she's saying that some of these apps that will let you check your subscriptions are legitimate and everything like that. And the $27 a day challenge, if you do it correctly, that'll save you $10,000 a year, and that makes sense. So 27 times 52 weeks, and the amount of time that would be about $10,000. So yeah, she's got a couple of things that she's putting out there. There's people that they follow them, and you know you probably can spend $27 just going to a restaurant. So maybe you cut out that restaurant that you go to every day of the week to maybe 5 days of the week instead of every day of the week, and everything like that. So definitely, there's
Yeah,
ways to.
that's definitely how I have gotten that. Money counts in small amounts
Hmm.
mentality. Because when you work, like picking up McDonald's, it used to be nothing, but it's about $12 a day now,
Yeah.
and so making that biscuit at home,
Hmm.
making that cup, getting you one of those K cups and making it at home, or even better, grounding your own coffee and making it at home, can save you a gazillion. And my front yard is a little victory garden.
Hmm.
August is when you plant to get your pumpkins and get your greens, um, and broccoli ready for the winter. If I want a good Thanksgiving, I gotta plant those carrots and gourds and things now. If I want sweet potatoes for homegrown, I gotta put them in the ground now. So
Yeah,
y'all see,
don't talk about Thanksgiving. It is only around the corner. I mean, it doesn't sound like it because it's hot and everything like that. But I think I've jokingly told you before, because we talk about it sometimes, and I was talking to her earlier today and everything like that. But when I talked to mom, who's up there in Rocky Mountain, had her own career in foundations and politics and everything along those lines, she's got a family of turkey and a family of deer that hang in her backyard. And I'm sure that right now they're probably signing petitions for her not to go out there and find a family member that's a hunter to go get them on the dinner table. 'Cause right now they're just her. I won't call them her pets, but they're like her next door neighbors and everything like that. So I think that they're safe.
yeah,
At least these
I
ones
wanted
are,
to get
and
too
everything like
attached
that.
to
But
them.
I'm sure that they might be trying to get a petition signed, going like, "Please, whatever you do, Miss Lee, we don't want to be on the dinner table. We like being your neighbors and all along those lines." Because she has a fun time talking about when they disappear and then they pop back, and she will tell me sometimes it's like all three or four of them, it's like the whole family is out there. Sometimes it might be one or two that are roaming around having some playful times. It might be the kids and everything like that. But yeah, she likes to joke about her animal neighbors. I'm sure you got some animal neighbors. Because surprisingly, we have some animal neighbors even here. I haven't seen them lately, but there used to be some rabbits used to hang around Duke Gardens, and of course you can definitely see the squirrels and the birds and butterflies. But yeah, there used to be even some rabbits and feral cats that would hang around Duke Gardens and everything like that. But I haven't seen the rabbits recently. But I think people might have got mad at the rabbits because I know that there was at least two people that were doing like you're doing. Because even in an apartment, you can plant gardens. You can plant them like either in your front of the porch if you're on the first floor and everything like that. And there are ways that you can plant them even the hanging gardens and all on those lines. So just because you're living in an apartment doesn't mean you can't have a garden. You can even have sometimes garden items inside the apartment as well, depending on how you get the sunlight or do your kind of greenhouse effect and everything like that. But I'm going like, wait a minute. But what my point is that the rabbits were probably eating some of these my neighbors' gardens. And that's probably why
Yes.
they've got some rabbit be gone kind of things to make sure that the rabbits were not wanting to eat whatever was in the garden. Because I have not seen the rabbits recently, but I've also not been looking.
I haven't seen our community rabbits in a minute either. I have to check on them because they were my apocalypse dinner plate.
Yeah, those community rabbits, they could be really fun and everything like that. But you know, I am a little bit worried. I'm gonna tell you why I'm a little bit worried and everything like that. But 'cause I was joking on one of our shows, and the person was talking about all these wars we've got going on, and I know you talk about doing justice brings joy and everything like that. But um, you know, September, not this month, but next month will be the 25th anniversary of 9/11 and everything like that. And I do remember that the last time that humans got stupid, and humans can get stupid, the animals disappeared. So we're seeing animals that are not as much out there as they used to be. Then that to me is a signal that they might have gotten the message from the Most High or God and everything like
Well,
that. That humans are about to be stupid and y'all might want to go into hiding. So that I'm always concerned when animals start disappearing, both partially because of climate change, but also because they got better senses. I was watching them will
they
get off
do.
and everything like this, but I was watching an Instagram and it was a cat that was taking a nap. I think it was taking a nap in California, and all of a sudden the cat just like jumped up and ran like into the closet, and then the quake happened. So it was like right after they had that last quake,
How
and they
about
say that a lot of times animals have greater senses than we do.
persistent?
It might only
Yeah.
be like a second or two, but their senses are stronger than us. So they're literally the cat was down there having like a
And
furious
how
cat
about
nap. I mean, it
having
was.
an earthquake in Texas?
Mhm. Yep.
So yeah, we gotta talk about that. I'm gonna bring TC on when we start talking the apocalypse.
Yeah,
Well,
because yeah, I just be worried when the animals start disappearing. Like if you don't see many
yeah,
butterflies,
absolutely,
then yeah, the
absolutely.
animals might be have gotten that signal because they do have, like I said, stronger senses than we do, and they might be scratching their head, going like, "All right, the human's about to be stupid."
All right. Well, we are gonna close out this week again. Big, big, big week next week. Pierce Freelon. Pierce Freelon, Grammy Award winning artist, will be on our show to talk about his new venture, Cocoa Fro, which are freeze dried ice cream.
Mhm.
Um, and so I'm going to go get me some taste testeries. But we're going to talk about that. And if I've got him for an hour, we're going to talk music. We're going to talk. We're going to talk about North Star. We're going to talk about um, what it was like to be an elected official and why he chose not to do it again. and and just all the wonderful things that he and his family are up to. So tune in next week. And again, this will be the first time, I think, since we first started that I'll be doing promo videos um,
Okay.
uh, for the upcoming episode with Pierce Freelon to talk about Cocoa Fro. That's our show for next week on Doing Justice Brings Joy.